What are some of the best and worst places to watch the fireworks show at Disneyland? Fireworks and Disneyland have been a thing dating all the way back to 1956, where cast members would have to light the fireworks by hand. Of course, decades later, everything is done electronically, synced to music, with cool lights and fancy projections. I think it's fair to say that they are more nighttime spectacular than just your everyday fireworks show. And to many families, those nighttime spectaculars are the perfect bookend to a magical day at the park. I've been asked so many times, where is the best fireworks spot? And to be honest, I've never really truly had an answer. So today, we're gonna change that. In search for the best fireworks spot, we had to make criteria to properly judge each and every place. So we came up with 3 categories. First was convenience. How difficult is it to get to the spot? Do you have to arrive extremely early? Is it crowded? Is it difficult to leave from? It doesn't matter how great of a view it is if getting there is a complete nightmare. The second category is fireworks. There's enough said there. Fireworks are the main attraction. Of course, there's a dedicated category just to the fireworks alone. Third is atmosphere. This is where the music, projection, the lights, or anything else that adds or takes away from the overall experience comes into play. Each category will be rated out of 5, giving a perfect score of 15. However, we did feel that some of the spots earn an extra credit point for their unique situation that just didn't fit in any of the 3 categories. But I'll explain where I'll give extra credit. I do want to note, we did shoot this with a Disneyland Forever nighttime spectacular, but we are grading with other fireworks shows in mind. So if it's Mickey's Mixed Magic, a holiday show, or any other future shows that may come to be, this list should do just fine. Now, before we jump into this list, I just wanted to mention that this video did not happen overnight. So please, be sure to drop a like, it would be greatly appreciated. Typically, we do vlogs that we shoot in a single day, but this was a completely different beast. Most of the recording though was done by Jaylynn, with me only showing up a few times, so big shout out to her. So with that out of the way, let's jump into our first spot. For our first spot, we got It's a Small World. Now, of course, It's a Small World isn't exactly thought of the first spot to go watch fireworks, but to be quite honest, this one shocked us. It was a lot lower in our heads mentally, but when we actually went there, it completely surprised us on how good the fireworks show is. When it comes to convenience, you can show up there later because it's not as crowded. It's the back of the park. And it does give you some easy access to Tomorrowland and Fantasyland as soon as the fireworks show is done. So that's why we decided to give the convenience score a 4. Now, even though the Sleeping Beauty Castle is thought of the ideal place to watch fireworks, It's a Small World backdrop is perfect. The fireworks lined up perfectly, and even though you don't actually get the castle fireworks, it gives a unique situation where you get fireworks in front and behind you. So that's why we decided to give the fireworks score a 4. Now, when it comes to atmosphere, It's a Small World does have the full projections, the music, and pretty much everything that you could want from the nighttime spectacular, so we decided to give it a complete 5. In addition, we wanted to give an extra credit point because it is an overall great place that is kind of underrated. So all in total, It's a Small World comes out to be a score of 14. Now, of course, it could initially be thought that we wanted to start off with It's a Small World, making it one of the low scoring places to watch fireworks, but honestly, we wanted to start off with a banger, and that's why we went with It's a Small World. Overall, It's a Small World is a great location to go watch fireworks from. If you've never done it, you definitely have to check it out because it definitely is an underrated spot that even I had zero faith in. But with that perfect lineup of fireworks, with the complete immersion from the music, the projections from It's a Small World, I think it deserves its spot of a score of 14. Now, talking about one of the best spots on our list, we're gonna go to one of the worst spots. The parking structure. While yes, as far as convenience, it may seem like one of the best places because as soon as the fireworks show is done, you can easily just leave. And in fact, you could easily just show up right before the fireworks show and you don't have to worry about it because there's not going to be a crowd there. But the only disadvantage as far as convenience is that you are not in the park. So if you wanted to ride anything after the fireworks show, you may want to count that out. While almost perfect, we decided to give convenience a score of 4. As far as the fireworks are concerned, it does actually earn a pretty high score because you get a really great view of the fireworks. The fireworks are in perfect view and those fireworks hit hard. When it comes to the sound, it echoes throughout the parking structure. So if you like the loud bang from a firework, the parking structure is your spot. The only problem is you can't see the castle fireworks, which do shoot a little bit lower than the main big fireworks that shot behind the park. Other than that, it does earn a score of 4. So 2 scores of 4. It's looking pretty good, right? Well, when it comes to atmosphere, there's no music, no projections, no lights, no special effects, nothing. In fact, you get something even worse. Car alarms. Remember when I mentioned that the fireworks are really loud and the boom echoes throughout the parking structure? Yeah, that causes alarms to go off. So that's why, even though it's a 1 through 5, parking structure earns a score of 0 for atmosphere. In fact, it was so offensive to us that we decided to subtract 2 extra points from it. Don't get me wrong, we're not going to be subtracting from anywhere else, but we thought that if the fireworks had a really good score at the parking structure, people might legitimately think that it might be a good idea to go to the parking structure, and that's what we're recommending. We do not recommend the parking structure at all. If you happen to be leaving, it's a perfect place to stop, look from atop the roof, and see the fireworks. Great, that's perfect. Don't go with the intent to watch them from the parking structure, leave it to the park. If you want to be outside of the park, at the very least, go to our next spot, which is the Disneyland Esplanade. Sitting right outside of the main entrance to Disneyland, it is a perfect convenience because you do not need to have a ticket. You can simply walk up, no ticket in hand, and stand right in front of the park. The only issue that I have is that sometimes the crowd can actually be quite large. We've found multiple occasions where there is quite a big queue in front of the park and it is hard to find a spot to sit. But other than that, it's not that bad as far as convenience is concerned. So with that in mind, we decided to give convenience a score of 3. As far as the fireworks are concerned, it isn't one of the best viewing experiences that you can have. In fact, it is the furthest location on our list that you can view the fireworks from. In addition, there are a lot of trees in front of you, the main street station is in front of you, the monorail track is in front of you. There's quite a few things that are prohibiting you to get a good view of the fireworks. So with that in mind, we decided to give fireworks a score of 2. When it comes to atmosphere, it is also going to be very low, but unlike the parking structure, it's not going to have annoying car alarms. But it also won't have the music, the projections, or any of the special effects. So that's why we decided to give it a score of 1. We did, however, decide to give 1 extra credit point to it, mainly because you don't need to have a ticket. It is honestly one of the best places to experience the Disneyland fireworks without having to go into the park. And you're not going to be the only weird one looking at the fireworks because you couldn't get into the Disneyland entrance. So with all that in mind, the Esplanade earns a score of 7. So after looking at the 2 worst locations on our list, we decided to move on to something a little bit more traditional when it comes to firework viewing. We're looking at the left side of the castle, looking towards the castle that is. Of course, when we start talking about convenience, anywhere inside the park starting now is going to be not very convenient, mainly because there's going to be a lot of other people trying to do the same thing as you, trying to get a perfect spot of the fireworks. Here on out, don't expect the convenience number to be very high. The left side of the castle is a little bit crowded, and we do recommend that you get there at least 20 minutes before. It is a little bit hard to navigate, it's not going to be easy to get into, and it's not going to be easy to escape if you want to leave earlier. However, we do recommend that if you are going to Frontierland or Adventureland after the fireworks show, it may be a good place to go to. With that in mind, we decided to give it a score of 3 for convenience. As far as fireworks are concerned, honestly, it's a really great look. The only issue I have is that the fireworks are kind of shooting off behind the tree and slightly behind the castle. I feel like the left side just doesn't quite have that perfect angle. So with that in mind, we decided to give the fireworks a score of 4. Atmosphere. Well, you're in the hub, you're sitting in front of the castle, the music is roaring. It is honestly as good as it's gonna get. The atmosphere is gonna be a score of 5. Adding all this up together, we're gonna give it a total score of 12, which isn't too shabby. However, our next spot, the right side of the castle, is a slightly better viewing experience. It's going to maintain the same score of a convenience level of 3, but the difference is instead of being able to go to Frontierland, we recommend that if you want to go to Tomorrowland after the fireworks show, this is the place you want to go to, with easy access as soon as the fireworks end. In addition, we do definitely recommend that you get here 20 minutes earlier, maybe even slightly earlier than the left side because the right side is slightly more popular. So with that in mind, the convenience score is number 3. When it comes to the fireworks, you get the best view of the fireworks when it comes from the sides of the castles. I don't know how, but since the fireworks are launched a little bit off to the left in the back of the park, the fireworks land perfectly behind the castle, giving it a perfect 5 compared to the 4 of the left side. These 2 spots may look similar and almost exactly the same, just mirrored on the opposite side, but trust me, it's all about angles when it comes to the location. With that in mind, the atmosphere is going to be the exact same with the perfect score of 5. When we add all these scores together, we're going to get a score of 13, just one better than the left side, because I definitely do recommend if you can pick left or right side, do pick the right side with that perfect view of the fireworks. I want to put this warning out there right now. If you're going to do the left or right side for the castle, be warned, do not get too close, because our next spot is the right side, but it does apply for the left side as well. So we'll call this right side castle number 2. And while the convenience is exactly the same, maybe even slightly worse because you have to get there a little bit earlier because you're close to the castle and people generally tend to push forward, we're still giving it the same score. The fireworks though does not receive the same score, getting a score of 2, because when you get too close, the trees end up blocking the entire fireworks show. It becomes a sound show. The atmosphere is going to be a 3 as well, because like I said, overall, this just is not worth it to go through the effort. It is going to take a little bit of patience and a little bit of effort to try and get forward and closer to the castle, but when you're on the right or left side, it becomes a really bad location and it's just not worth the effort. So that's why we docked points where we could, giving the right side of the castle number 2 a total of 8 points. Not as good as the previous 2 spots. After a bit of warnings, we decided to move on to something that could be a little bit controversial, and that's the Rivers of America. When it comes to convenience, it's honestly one of the worst spots to go to for fireworks, mainly because just before that, the nighttime spectacular Fantasmic is hosted on the Rivers of America, meaning that there's a crowd queued there way before. So traffic way in advance, over an hour beforehand, is already going to be bad. So if you're showing up to the Rivers of America just to watch fireworks, this is not a good idea. Stay away. Convenience is only a 2. So then how are the fireworks on the Rivers of America? Well, personally, they're not my favorite because they don't exactly line up with the projections that you're watching, but they are pretty good views of the fireworks. You get a perfect view of both the castle fireworks, which are shot lower, and the big fireworks, which are shot in the back of the park. You do have to look a little bit to the right, but honestly, it's still a great view of the fireworks. So that's why we decided to give it a score of 4. When it comes to atmosphere though, we decided to go a little bit lower with a score of 3, mainly because yes, the music plays, yes, you get water fountain projections, but the fireworks just don't get lined up and the overall atmosphere isn't really immersive. However, we did want to give extra credit because if you're there for the show Fantasmic, honestly, it's a perfect 2-for-1 deal. If you were to do both of those shows separately, you would have to wait an extra half an hour for each show, where you could just wait one half an hour, and once the Fantasmic show ends, nearly 5 minutes later, the fireworks show begins. It's honestly the perfect combination if you're planning to watch both shows. If not, we recommend you stay away. But either way, it still gets extra credit points for having Fantasmic. Thus, we get the total score for the Rivers of America at 11. Next up, we got the flagpole on Main Street. So yes, while you were on the opposite side of the flagpole when it comes to Main Street, it is still technically Main Street. So when it comes to convenience, expect the same kind of crowd you would expect on Main Street. Weirdly enough, even though it's on the opposite side of the castle, furthest away on Main Street, it still somehow manages to have a crowd that you just really wouldn't expect. The only advantage here when it comes to convenience is that it does give you an easy out if you want to try to beat the crowd leaving before the fireworks show ends. So that's why we decided to give it a score of 3. When it comes to fireworks, it honestly isn't a great view as well, because you are, like I said, the furthest on Main Street that you possibly can be, meaning that the fireworks are a solid 3. The view is very distant and they could be obstructed depending on what holiday decoration they have up. So if they have, say, the pumpkin or the Christmas tree, count this spot completely out of the loop. As far as atmosphere is concerned, it's really not the greatest because you really can't see the projections, but you do get the music, so we decided to give it a 2, tallying up for a total score of 8 at the flagpole. So here's a completely different spot. Galaxy's Edge. One wouldn't exactly think Galaxy's Edge to be the perfect spot for fireworks, but it's definitely a completely different experience than any other spot that we've talked about. When it comes to convenience, honestly, the convenience factor is pretty decent because the crowds really don't arrive until the show starts. So you can pretty much arrive whenever you want to. So you don't have to have that need to arrive 15 minutes early. You can just kind of arrive as the fireworks show starts to begin. It's perfect if you want to hit the rides in Galaxy's Edge, but if not, you really don't have access to the rest of the park because it is one of the furthest corners in the park you could possibly be. So with that being said, we decided to give it a convenience score of 3, even though it is easy to get to, but it is also far to get to. Now, the biggest thing about going to Galaxy's Edge for fireworks is the fireworks. The fireworks just hit different in Galaxy's Edge. I don't know how to explain it, and the visuals don't explain it, and the sound doesn't explain it, but when you are in Galaxy's Edge, the fireworks are just bigger, they're louder, and it's beautiful to see it across the ridgeline in Galaxy's Edge of Batuu. It's honestly something that you have to try at least once if you can. It's a completely different experience. When it comes to atmosphere though, it is gonna be a low score of 1, mainly because there's no projections, no music, no nothing. It's just a fireworks show. But with that being said, we did want to give 1 extra credit point because the fireworks are just that good. So that brings us to a total score of 10. Galaxy's Edge may not be the top of your list, but it's definitely one that you should check out for yourself. Next up, we got Behind the Castle. So I guess we're keeping up with that theme of something different because the Behind the Castle is a different experience as well, but it's different for a different reason than Galaxy's Edge. We decided to give it a convenience score of 3, mainly because it is not crowded. You can show up whenever you want. Fantasyland rides are closed after the fireworks show ends, so there's not exactly anything you can do after the park. And in addition, there is a lot of one-ways and complicated routes to get around Main Street and to Fantasyland, so getting to Fantasyland can be a little bit of a hassle. Honestly, I'm still not quite too sure on how to get there myself because we haven't talked about this at all, but Disneyland does run some one-way traffic flows, so that way things go a lot quicker. But sometimes if you're in the wrong spot, it doesn't exactly make things quicker because you have to go a very roundabout way to get there. And Fantasyland is kind of one of those spots as well. So with that being said, convenience score 3. Fireworks though, it is again a completely different experience to watch fireworks. It is, if you're going here, you are here for the fireworks because you get an amazing view from the large fireworks coming from the back of the park, and you get a great view of the castle fireworks, which is right in front of you. It's a completely unique experience to have the fireworks coming from in front and behind you, and I feel like you're actually pretty dead center of it right here. The only disadvantage though is that you do not really get projections or music or anything really for that matter, but the fireworks are on both sides, so immersive level is a little bit better and you get a really cool view of anything that is on the zip line above the castle. So we decided to give an atmosphere of 2, but we did want to make up for that with the extra credit of 1 because it is just a unique experience to stand behind the castle. Check it out for yourself if you get the opportunity to. It's Jaylynn's favorite spot. Now, before we get to the best for last, I wanted to mention the possibility of the fireworks show being canceled. We ran into cancellations 4 times, which doesn't seem like much, but who knows what 4 other spots could have turned out to be. So the interesting thing is that when they cancel the fireworks show, they don't actually cancel the entire show. They will still do a makeup show, whether it's Mickey's Mixed Magic or just the show that was supposed to be played, but just the projections and music. It does kind of suck though, because when you're there for fireworks, you want to see fireworks, and when the fireworks get canceled, it is a big bummer. Trust me. We felt that very much. Now, we wanted to save the best for last, but to be honest, we had a very tough decision when it came to both of these locations. Either of these locations could have taken the cake, and it was only settled by 1 point. So for our number 2 spot, we went with the center right in front of the castle. When it comes to convenience, it's not very convenient, mainly because you have to get there extremely early. Jaylynn had to sit there for at least a half an hour, maybe even more, because this is the popular spot. If you want to get to this spot, we recommend that you get there at least, and I mean at least, a half an hour in advance, because this is the popular, most infamous spot to go to. The only advantage that it has that saves it from being anything lower than a 3 is the fact that you have the choice after the fireworks are completed to go either left to the Frontierland Adventureland or right to Tomorrowland. Both of those will be an option since you're not tied to really either side. So with that, it gets a convenience score of 3. Now, the fireworks are the best when it comes to the center of the castle. It is perfect. Honestly, there is no better firework viewing experience when it comes to the perfect iconic castle and fireworks. Sitting right dead center in front of it is breathtaking. That's why we decided to give it a perfect score of 5. In addition, the atmosphere is the best because you are dead center of the castle. It's iconic, it's perfect, the music hits right, the projections are beautiful, the fireworks, they match, the lighting, enough said. Perfect score of 5, atmosphere. It only makes sense. And in addition, we decided to give 3 extra credit points because this is honestly the best spot to go to. The only reason why it's not in the first position is because you kind of have to earn the spot. Well, yes, it's the best spot. You have to work for it a little bit by getting there a little early. But if you want that iconic Disneyland Fireworks spot, go here. It deserves its score of 16, 1 over our perfect score. So then what? What got the first spot? Well, Main Street. Dead center of Main Street is the best Disneyland Fireworks viewing location, hands down. And here's why. When it comes to convenience, you can honestly stroll up a little bit late to this spot. Unlike the center of the castle, you actually do not have to arrive here early because there is so much to Main Street that you can line up pretty much anywhere. We're talking like dead center of Main Street. When it comes to convenience, it's honestly the best of both worlds because 1, it doesn't quite open up and fill up as fast as the other spots do, meaning you can stroll up there a little bit later. We still recommend 15 minutes, but you can roll up there a little bit later than you would in front of the castle. It's crowded, but it's not as crowded as you think it is. So that's why we decided to give it a convenience number of 4. In addition, even though you're still a little bit further away from the castle than sitting right in front, honestly, the fireworks are still spectacular from that view. It's kind of hard to see on camera. It looks a little small. The castle seems a little bit far, but when you're actually sitting there on Main Street looking with your very own eyes, the castle looks a lot bigger. The fireworks seem a lot closer, and it's a really great spot. The camera just doesn't do it justice. When it comes to atmosphere, we also decided to give it a perfect score of 5 because it's Main Street. That's where some of the most effects happen. The projections happen there. The snow happens there. There's some pop-ups for the aerial segment of the Disneyland Forever show. It is the best place because honestly, it immerses you in the experience. In addition, we decided to give 3 extra credit points because it also is the perfect viewing spot, which brings it up to a total score of 17. I know we set the best score being 15, but we went above and beyond that by 2 because that's how good the Main Street viewing spot is. I know that this list was out of order, so just as a recap, here is our list of the best spots to watch the fireworks at Disneyland. Do you agree with our list? Leave a comment down below and tell me what your favorite spot is to watch the fireworks. I feel that each of these locations offers a benefit in its own right. It may be the same show, but depending on where you decide to watch it, it can lead to a completely different experience. It's one of the greatest things about Disneyland. Everywhere is a stage. Well, after the perfect bookend to a day at Disney with fireworks, the next logical thing is to head home. But why head home when you can stay at the Disneyland Hotel? Jaylynn and I stayed there for a night, but was it worth it? Check out that video next, but as always, this isn't a goodbye, but just a see you real soon.